Hey guys, I'm Danielle and this is Bookchara, and today we are going to do my 2023 book bracket. So, I got this idea from watching Bailey at Is Bailey Reading do her 2023 book bracket video, and I thought it was so cool and such a fun way to really narrow down what was my favorite book of 2023. So I'm curious at this point if you guys have any guesses. Um, I do want to mention that the creator of this bracket, the graphic, was Ruby at Ruby Red. So thank you, Ruby, so much for allowing Bailey to use this graphic, allowing me to use it. I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. So before we jump into the book versus book face-offs, I just want to say where I've been for the last 6 weeks. Mostly, I have been busy with Squash That Series, the Squash That Series tournament, which is hosted by Is Bailey Reading, and it was a 5-week tournament. We had to qualify. There was a qualifying round, and basically we just read our little hearts out for 5 weeks, reading ongoing series. And so to date, even though you guys haven't heard from me, I have read 11 books so far in 2024. 10 of those were for the Squash That Series tournament. So that's almost double what I would normally read in that amount of time. So I just want to say thank you to Bailey so much for hosting that. It was a lot of fun. I think we all were a little bit burnt out by the end, but it was really, really, really fun. So make sure you guys subscribe to her channel so you can keep an eye out for any future Squash That Series rounds to come. All right, with that, I am going to get our tournament bracket set up. Okay, so I am just going to go month by month. We'll get the 12 outermost rectangles filled in here. In January, I am going to go with Heartless by Marissa Meyer. If you do not know, this is a Queen of Hearts retelling, and you guys, all I can really say about this book, I have done a review on both my Bookstagram and Goodreads if you want to check that out, but this story is such, it's kind of like that villain origin story, and it felt like such a me book. I loved it. I loved it so much. So that is going in the January spot. I do have a couple honorable mentions throughout this, which, I figure that's legal because they're not actually going on the board. So I did want to also mention another book that I read in January that I really enjoyed and thoroughly recommend, and that is The Reading List by Sarah Nisha Adams. In February, I have chosen as my favorite book of February, Wasted Words by Stacey Hart. This is the first book in a series. The series is called The Austins, and this is definitely romantic comedy, but these are also retellings. And so this book is a retelling of Jane Austen's Emma. I've actually, since this year, in 2024, I've actually read the next book in the series, which is 1,000 Letters, and I believe that one is a Pride and Prejudice retelling, if I'm not, or no, it's Persuasion. Okay, so anyway, I love these. I love these so much, and this was one that I read and kind of just lost myself in it, It was really, really good. So that was my top book of February. My favorite book for March kind of won by default because it was the only book I finished in March. It was still good. I gave it 4 stars, and that was Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. That is book 2 in the Small Spaces series. April. April's favorite book, my favorite book in April, was Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. This is the conclusion to the Farseer trilogy. You're about to notice a pattern. um, this is not the first Hobb on this bracket, and this is not the first series conclusion on this bracket. Honorable mention for April, I have got to give a shout out to The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I loved this. I listened to the audiobook. I had it in my head that after that experience, I wanted to read everything that Neil Gaiman has written. So that's definitely worth mentioning. In May, I did a reread of a nonfiction book that you actually may have heard me mention this book before. It's called Master of Circumstance, and it's written by James Morgan. So this is nonfiction, self-help, personal development kind of book, and it's all about the 7 victim mentalities and how to overcome those. I just think this book is so well done. It has been very impactful for me. I'm not the biggest nonfiction reader, but this was my favorite book in May. In June, my favorite book was Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. This is Live Ship Traders #1. Yeah, Ship of Magic and the Live Ship Traders. So this was my introduction to the Live Ship Traders. It felt so different initially from Farseer, and yeah, there's just something nostalgic at this point about Ship of Magic. I also honorable mentions for June, or there's just one. I read another nonfiction called You Were Born for This: Astrology for Radical Self-Acceptance by Chani Nicholas. Chani Nicholas. It just was kind of one of those books that I heard about it at Karen at the Roving Reader talked about it in one of her like nonfiction book recommendation type videos. I listened to the audiobook, and I really got a lot out of it. I felt like, along the whole lines of self-acceptance and just really getting to know yourself and what makes you tick. It was very insightful. I had to mention it. July, making it on the book bracket, is The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I'm going to say a little bit more about this one later. Honorable mention for July is another nonfiction. I just got done saying I don't read a lot of nonfiction. Another nonfiction, I Miss You When I Blink by Mary Laura Philpott. That one is a memoir style book. And man, I just related to so much of what she was saying. She's super quick-witted, and it was really, really good. Again, I had to mention it. August, I am going with Rainy Nightingale by Kate DiCamillo. This is actually book 1 in the 3 Rancheros series. I accidentally started that series with book 2, and which is Louise. I always get tongue-tied with this. I think it's Louisiana's Way Home, or is it on my shelf? Hang on. Okay, yes, it's on my shelf. It is Louisiana's Way Home. So I started with book 2, loved it, went back and read book 1, loved it. this is middle grade. It's about three friends, and it's just so cozy and good. And I devour them. So, Rainy Nightingale is my favorite of August. For September, we're going with Mad Ship by Robin Hobb. This is Live Ship Traders number 2. For October, we're going with Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. This is Live Ship Traders number 3. In case you haven't grasped it, I I love Hobb. I loved Live Ship Traders. For November, I am going with Out of My Heart by Sharon Draper. This was one I read. Actually, Ship of Destiny was also one I read for part of my Seriously Series game that I was playing. So, Out of My Heart by Sharon Draper. This is book 2 in a 2-book series called Out of My Mind, or that leads with Out of My Mind. Also, honorable mention, Hollow Pox by Jessica Townsend, which is book 3 in Nevermore. Out of My Heart and Out of My Mind are both about a girl named Melody who has cerebral palsy. It's middle grade. It's told from Melody's point of view. Again, just kind of these really, really feel-good, comforting books. For December, I am going with The Toll by Neil Shusterman. That is book 3 in the Arc of a Scythe series. This was one that I drug my feet so bad about reading because I had heard just really mixed things, and then I read it and I was like, why did I wait? It was so good, you guys. Okay. Honorable mentions for December. I actually had 2. I'm going to mention The Blood Trader by Lynette Noni, which is book 3 in the Prison Healer series. And also, I read The Bridge by Karen Kingsbury. I had never read Karen Kingsbury before. It's Christian fiction, holiday Christian fiction. They were trying to save a bookstore. I loved it. Okay, so there it is. This was a process, you guys. I did not, I deliberated, okay? I just want you to know that. All right, so our first matchup is January versus May. So we've got Heartless versus Master of Circumstance. I have got to go with Heartless by Marissa Meyer, the Queen of Hearts retelling. Again, this is just such a Danielle book. Like, if I had to make a little collection of Danielle books, this would be on there. That matchup wasn't so hard. October versus March. So we have Ship of Destiny versus Dead Voices. Again, this one was not very difficult for me because Dead Voices was only a 4-star, and it won by default because it was the only book I read in March. So Ship of Destiny is moving forward. December versus June. Okay, so we have The Toll versus Ship of Magic. This is a little unfair because you've got a book 3 versus a book 1, but I have to go with The Toll. So The Toll is moving on. Next, I've got November versus August. Two middle grades versus each other. Out of My Heart and Rainy Nightingale. I mean, Out of My Heart, like, it really did move me, like, emotionally, but just in general, my experience with the Three Rancheros has been so amazing. I'm moving Raimi Nightingale forward. September versus April, we have Madship versus Assassin's Quest. So we've got a book 2. Not that Madship was, obviously it was not a bad book 2. It made it on the bracket. So we've got a book 2 versus a book 3. I actually had to go back and kind of just reread the summaries of these because I was not sure. But I did decide to go ahead and choose Assassin's Quest. July versus February. This was my most difficult matchup. I have The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner versus Wasted Words by Stacey Hart. The reason I say this is the most difficult matchup is because, okay, so The Lost Apothecary is like historical fiction. It was like dual timeline. It was just, you know, I was reading it, on my birthday. I was in Washington State visiting Amy. Like, there were just a lot of, I just had a really good experience with that book. But then Wasted Words, like I said earlier, it was one that really just like sucked me in. And in fact, the main character, I mentioned in my review, like the main character really got on my nerves. But I think it was because she reminded me a lot of me. And I mean, I know that's kind of funny, but there was definitely like some self-reflection going on with that. So I have to choose Wasted Words. Okay, so this is where this gets interesting. We have Heartless versus Ship of Destiny, which, again, we have a book that I feel like encompasses everything that I love as a reader versus a book that rocked my world. Like, there are mixed opinions about how a certain thing was handled in Ship of Destiny. And if you know what I'm talking about, to the people who maybe feel like it wasn't handled the way, like in a satisfying way, to them I say, okay, then give me an example of how you think she could have done it better. And I'm not being like condescending when I say that. I legit want to know. I loved Ship of Destiny because when I got to the end of the book, I was basically just like freaking out because of certain connections that I made. I could not wait to talk to Chaz about it. I could not wait to talk to my mom and dad about it. Okay, that's enough. Ship of Destiny is moving on. Okay, now we have The Toll versus Raimi Nightingale, which I don't know how fair this matchup is. But based on what I told you earlier about how I shouldn't have waited to read The Toll, and I thought it was great. I thought it was great. Anyway, The Toll is moving on. And then we have Assassin's Quest versus Wasted Words. And I'm going to cut to the chase. We're moving Assassin's Quest on. And if you'll notice, we now have a matchup between 3 last books in a series, which how fitting is that? Yeah. Okay. This is supposed to be fun. Okay. I mean, you guys have pretty much you've already heard my thoughts about this. Okay? Ship of Destiny rocked my world. The Toll, I was sad that I waited so long to read it, and Assassin's Quest. When I went back to read the summary of Assassin's Quest, I was just like, man, there were so many big things that happened in that book, and rightly so. Rightly so. But at the end of the day, at the end of the year, my top book was Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. Mic drop. I'll drop my little remote. This was so fun. And like, honestly, I kind of knew what my favorite book was. But in this format, I mean, I guess this is my rough drawing. You know, anything could have happened. Anything could have happened. So it was pretty cool. I've confirmed that it stood the test. So thank you guys so much for watching. This was quite a little project, but I'm really proud. I'm really proud that I did this. Definitely looking forward to making some more videos in the very near future. Thank you so much to Bailey and Ruby for being my inspiration. And yeah, let me know down in the comments what was your #1 book of 2023. Let me know how you think I did. Do you approve? Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for what's to come. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye.